Welcome back to episode 15 of Earn Your Couch. Today's conversation with Coleman and myself. We really dive into how challenging it is to be present, even if we're focused on being present, and that's part of our awareness. How challenging it is. I kind of dive into my experience at Lightning in a Bottle this past weekend, but then we also really talk about our relationship with our phones and the distractions that they cause, and how we as weak human beings really have to engineer our environment so that these entertainment sources that aren't going to go away, we have a good relationship with it. So it's not taking away from our life experience. It's not taking away from our interactions with individuals. And it's not just a distraction from the stresses and the natural boredom that can come with life on a daily basis. And so if you've been grappling with your relationship with your phone, you're looking to figure out what types of tools you can implement, we dive into that a little bit, but really we just talk about kind of how hard it is. And so you're not alone if you're feeling that way. Let's dive in. You're talking about presence and the challenge of it. It is really hard, even if you're aware of it. Eckhart Tolle talks about how most people just aren't even aware that they're not in the present or the here and the now, and that the default is living where your brain is split between the past, the future, and very rarely the here and the now, or it's split between the here and the now, and either the future or the past. And I experienced that at Lightning in the Bottle, where you'd think that surrounded by your friends and a bunch of fun, beautiful people listening to fun music in a little wonderland would mean that you're as present as possible, because I don't have service. There's not a care in the world. I can go do whatever I want. But I noticed that I got into this like habit or the routine throughout the week of wanting to constantly go to the next stage, or like I was cautious about like where my group was, or I was thinking about like am I having fun? Like, does that group look fun? Do you think I can go like hang out and dance with them? Like, that's actually probably too much. Like, we're about to leave here in a second. And all of these thoughts, bing, 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 as opposed to just hanging out and being chill. And I think part of the problem, and I did a lot of like reflection on it, especially in the plane ride back to Arkansas, of like, why do I feel that I had a great experience, but I'm not fully satisfied with it? And first of all, speaking of grace, got to give myself a little grace. Like, we had a great time. We got to hang out with some of my best friends, got to listen to some amazing music. Nothing really went wrong. I was able to go do this in the middle of traveling to Arkansas for work. Not a lot of people would have been able to do that, just with circumstances. So there's a lot to appreciate. And so why do I feel this experience is tainted or painted in a negative light? And I think a lot of it has to do with the expectations that I had going into it, with like, last year's Lightning in a Bottle played out in one way. And I thought, think about, this new version of Jacob 1 year later, how much more fun it's going to be, and how much better this experience is going to be. And I put this pressure on what Lightning in a Bottle needed to be for me in order for it to be success. And some of it was conscious, most of it was subconscious, I think. But I didn't just let the experience take me. Then in the moment, I just was trying to curate this Lightning in a Bottle was going to be. And so that constantly led me to be, like I said, we're at a concert, we're at a stage, having a good time. And then, you're checking the watch, you're checking when's the next thing going to be? Do we have everybody? Is everyone, now all of a sudden you're just thinking, you're pulled out and you're anxious of hitting the right time, getting to the right spot. Who are we going to see? Are they going to be blah, 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 blah. And so in a place that just is conducive for presence, even then it was challenging. And so when you're in the middle of a stressful week and you're like, I can't wait for the weekend, like, that's a very easy feeling. And I think that's why most people feel it a lot. It's very easy to be like, I don't want to deal with my shit, but not accepting what is, accepting this is what's happening here and now, is rejecting presence, and is will lead to stress in the form of what I have today is not good enough for me to be happy. At this current stage with this current music, I am not happy because I need to be over there.
Right? You're thinking, I can't wait for the next performer while a performer is I think time is crazy to think about when it comes to that stuff because if time didn't exist, you wouldn't be thinking that way at all.
I got rid of my watch after the first 2 days because I was like, I gotta stop looking at this thing.
Like, why do I keep
It
looking at the
doesn't
time?
matter.
I'm here for 4 days.
Yeah.
You're like, why do I care if they start in 3 hours? Like, there's 3 more hours of performers. It's crazy to think about because I feel this way when I go to like trips and stuff. Okay, we're gonna get there at about 7 p.m. We're gonna have to leave at like 11 a.m. We're only gonna be there for like a day and a half. And then I thinking, like, you look at the time, like, what time is it? I'm hungry. Well, it's probably lunchtime if you're hungry. Time won't make you go, okay, it's time to eat. It's just what we associate time with nowadays. And like, time cuts everything short, too. If time didn't exist in that lightning in a bottle, you would literally just be walking around like, oh, hey, what? And then all of a sudden, like, you'll be like, holy cow, it's getting dark.
Yeah, I almost wish I didn't
Whoa.
know the lineup
Yeah.
so that I could just be like, I'm just gonna go, and then if people want to go see people, great, but I'm not gonna lead it. But I was the guy with the backpack, so I had the phones, I had the schedule, I had the water, so I was just kind of like, I was kind of not dad, but I was kind of in that dad mode where people would come up to me and be like, "Can I get my thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, here, there." So I felt like all of a sudden I was just like, I gotta know where people are. But last year, what I had was I had that side quest mentality of I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, and if they want to join me, great. If not, who cares? I'll see them later. And I didn't give that to myself, which I think was a big issue.
Yeah.
I like I stayed with the group, which meant that I was constantly doing what I
Or
wanted
they
to
did.
do, but I was also constantly doing what they wanted to do. And there was a constant compromise happening where I wanted to stay at the stage, but people wanted to go. Or they wanted to stay and I wanted to go. And then you just kind of sacrifice what you wanted and what you needed. And then you're like, well, sure. Because I'm going to go hang out with my best friends. Like, that's who we're here with. But doing that for the entire time, the way that I described it was like I filled up a lot of my cup, but there was just aspects of the cup that was only going to be filled up by giving myself complete independence for a certain period of time. And I very rarely did that. I always had my friend to talk to. I never really needed to go and talk to strangers because why? I got this person.
Yeah, I think there's also that feeling of like, oh, I have my group, so I don't need to go somewhere without them. But if you're by yourself and you don't like if you're by yourself the entire time, you're not just going to stay in that one spot because there's so much more freedom, I guess you could say, in terms of where you can go. Yeah, I have a group. I have a mastermind group with some college buddies. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago in it, and it was like one of my buddies, he talked about a lot of the time I reflected because we read The Power of Now, the book as a group, and then we talked about it, and yeah, and he was like something I kept reflecting on was being at the house back in college with everybody and like being in charge of the songs, being in charge of what gets played. And he's like, I always thought about like what am I gonna play next and what am I gonna play after that instead of just like enjoying the song when the song's on. He never like just enjoyed what was being played, but instead he was constantly stressing about what he needed to play next and what he was going to play. And he never actually enjoyed what he was going to play every single time. It's like the same idea. It's the same idea, honestly, when I think about it, when I'm traveling somewhere or I'm going someplace, when I'm watching like a movie in the theater for the first time, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is like the moment, right? But also, I just can't wait to see what happens at the end instead of just watching the movie all the way through. Like, I remember feeling that way back in the day when Marvel movies were, awesome to go see in theaters. And like, I remember thinking, I can't wait to see what the end credit scene is going to be to figure out what's going to happen next, like
Yeah.
instead of just enjoying the full process all the way through. That you think about that way a lot of the time when it comes to events, time, and like the week. And it's really hard to let go of that idea, to let go of time being what's controlling your every single day thoughts. So at the end of it's like, oh, the laundry's done. I gotta go do the laundry. No, you don't. It's just like what we associate, like we gotta go get that done. And I'm guilty of that too a lot of the time during the day. I'm trying to get so many things done at once, even though they don't need to technically get done that day. They're just on my schedule instead of kind of going. I'm just gonna go with the flow today. See what. see where the day takes me. You know, that's interesting
That's
though.
really hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to have that freedom to do it too, because the world lives on a real timeline. Everyone else is. But when you can create those moments of, or afternoons of going with the flow, I think when you truly do it, not just like I'm going with the flow, but I have to do this later.
Got a report due. We'll see if I do it.
Yeah, I mean, when you can have that, that's real. I think you experience like real joy during those moments. But it's so hard. It's so hard to stay present. I mean, how many times during this conversation have you thought about what you're gonna do this afternoon? Have you thought about something that popped up at work that you're like, oh fuck, I gotta do that tomorrow? Have you popped up of like, what are we gonna do for dinner tonight? Like, it happens constantly. And it's not just this conversation, which in theory should be the most present, like this is all we're doing.
Yeah.
But your phone buzzes, someone walks in, you say something that makes me think about something else.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden I have to like remind myself, I'm like, wait, lock in, like, like, what are you saying? Not what am I thinking about? And so that's just a microcosm of all the time. But when you can really be here and just the conversation is the only thing that's going on in my head, those are really enjoyable conversations and moments. And you notice when you're with someone who's just present with you, you feel it. You feel when someone's phone is out or they're on it, and you're like, they care less about me than whatever the fuck's going on somewhere else.
Right. I feel like being at the lake, it's pretty easy to just go with the flow at the lake. You know what I mean? Because you're out there with no service and you're not thinking about getting somewhere, like getting back home after the lake, or like when you go camping, for example. It's really you get that flow that you're talking about of kind of just, oh, it's dinner time. Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. And then there's no, and you're in full conversation majority of the times. Like, sure, there might be music on. There's definitely people, people will get distracted at times, but in the actual like thing that you're doing, that's all you're there for. Like you're out there with no service, no television. It's different, and I think in today's world, you don't get a lot of that unless you go do those things where there isn't service and there isn't a regular
Right. I'd
house.
say most people, most of the time for most people, including myself, like you have to like curate an environment that allows you to be present. And once again, it's because there's so many fucking inputs all over the place. And they're usually not joyful or joy creating. They're stress inducing in one way or another. And so it's crazy that we have a hard time escaping it,
Yeah,
because like in theory we should be like, why do I do this all day? Like that just makes me worse. But in your brain you go, oh, that's an easy escape from the stresses of my own life, so I'm gonna do that.
right. I just think it's interesting that you went into this Lightning in a Bottle music festival after a full kind of year of learning about being more present, trying to be less on your phone, and like all of these different things. And then you still felt like you weren't, like it wasn't the full cup that you wanted at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about it, and she was like, I can't believe you were able to even go do that, coming off of how she knows.
How much you've been traveling.
Well, she works at Specray, and so she was like, knowing what you had to do in Arkansas and knowing what you had to go back to Arkansas, she's like, I wouldn't have been able to stop thinking about work. And so I think it took me a while to like also like stop having things pop into my head about that stuff, because it was so intense of a week, and so it's gonna be so intense of a
Following week. Yeah, I'm sure you
following
just kept
week.
thinking like, oh man, when I get back there, I need to.
I need to be, and yeah, and then on Sunday I was like,
You're
and then the last
traveling.
day I was like, I need to be less party mode and more like, don't screw up today so that Monday gets screwed up, which means Tuesday gets is hard. Like there was very like strategic and tactical. And so really there was like a Friday, Saturday of opportunity for me where I felt like I could really not think about work. But Wednesday, Thursday there, I was just replaying the previous week. And then Sunday, Monday, I was thinking about the following week. And so that's challenge and so that's challenging. And I think on a smaller scale of the weekend or a 3-day weekend or whatever, actually the key is to not let it have to just be on the weekends. And I talked to Dom about this, because Dom is either on or he's off. he's either thinking, or he's completely there's no care in the world. And it is usually thinking, and then he goes to like Mexico or Stagecoach or some like vacation where he then turns off. And he's like, how do I turn off for like an hour where I'm just like going with the flow from like 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. where I'm like hanging out with a friend and grabbing a dinner and I'm just there and
Not
the
worried
time
about the
doesn't
next day, not thinking
yeah.
about what the day had just happened. Yeah, I get that.
So you have like those moments of releasing yourself from the time
Do you know
and
what
of
I
the
think it is?
stresses of tomorrow and the day before or whatever.
I think to really do that, it's about like shutting off your phone and choosing to go somewhere with your friend instead of like have them come over to your house or you go over to theirs, because then all of a sudden it becomes so easy to just sit on the couch and watch a show and not actually like do something. Do you know what I mean? But if you have your phone on you, it's so easy to you get one notification, it changes your entire, like you just said, like you get one notification, you start thinking about something else.
I don't understand how people have notifications on for anything besides text messages and calls.
It's distracting.
I hate them.
Yeah.
I hate them. And I was like, I'm sitting next to someone on the plane who had notifications for Instagram just that someone posted.
Wow. That's a
And I'm
distraction.
like, I can't imagine just getting a I don't have anything for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and no notifications are on, which has been the case for years. But like I have my banking apps, my work apps, which I deleted all of my work apps when I went to lighting in a bottle. So I was like, there's no shot that I
Slack gone.
yeah,
Yeah.
Teams, email, deleted because I don't want to even think about it.
It's the
But
key.
it I'm a weak human being. I'm a weak individual who loves to eat up stuff coming from my phone. I love to distract myself. I love to not feel stressed or uncomfortable. I love it. I don't like to admit that I love it, even though it might seem like I just love to admit to it that I love it. But I'm going to do as much as I can to engineer my environment so that I don't get prompted to go do those things and just let myself do it on its own. But that's why the brick, that's why turning off notifications, that's why throwing my phone across the room when I'm trying to focus at work, because I will go and try and, where is it? I'm tired or bored or stressed. Let me distract myself.
It's so true.
And then people, like I said, and then the people who just people have gotten mad at me for being on like do not disturb a lot. And they're like, why are you always on do not disturb? It's like, cause I will check my phone every time it buzzes. Like I can't have just like things going off and then people like I'll see people like with their phones on the table and it's dinging and they're just like continuing to talk. Like I can't do that. I will either pick it up physically or in my head I'm like, I wonder what's going on.
And then
What
you're
is
just
this?
distracted and
And now
you
I'm
need to
not
know.
looking.
Yeah.
So I will be on do not disturb and I will be bricked up as much as I can because I can't control it myself.
Yeah.
That's the biggest reason. It's not to be better than other people. I'm as present as possible. No, I'm weak. And I will pick it up and I will look at it and then I will forget what I was doing and I will not be paying attention to the conversation that I'm currently in. And that's not what I want for myself. And that's not what I want for the person that I'm interacting with.
Yeah. I think we've grown up with the phones and so used to notifications and all of these things that like we didn't grow up without having that device on us. So when it's not on us, it's a weird feeling. But I will say when I am bricked up during the day, typically during like a really busy day, I'll get bricked up and I have the most productive day every single time. And then what happens is I unbrick and I just have a ton of notifications on my phone and I don't even look at all of them. I'm like, that's way too much. I'm not looking at all that. So I just see like the most important ones, like who texted me, who called me. Um and then all the Instagram stuff, like all the Bleacher Report stuff, like I don't even bother to look at. And I realize I made that connection of even just looking at all those after the long day of not looking at them at all during the day. Like I don't have the time for that. So like the times that I am doing it during the day, I'm just taking time away
Mm.
from doing something else. But then again, I don't get bricked up every day. Like I don't do it every day. However, I have been good about not just checking my phone, going 4 hours and then picking it up and going, okay, now I will say it's nice because sometimes I'm on meetings for like 3 hours straight or 4 hours straight. So I have that excuse to, right? That helps. And it's helped build that like kind of consistency in my brain to not just pick it up all the time because I'm on a call. But it's fully true. I totally agree. Like we're just really bad at not looking at the phone when we have a ringer go off. You need to
I
know.
mean, we need to know. That's pure dopamine. Is the expectation of like, what could that be? That could be a fantasy trade proposal. That could be, oh, you got a text from, my brother. Like, wonder what it's about. What quote is it? Or what's what plan are we making with my friend?
What's the
And in
Bleacher
reality,
Report? Like,
every single text, there's like, I've had maybe 3 texts in my life where I needed to pick it up and I needed to immediately, I had to immediately respond.
yeah, like emergency.
But 97% of the texts I respond to within a reasonable amount of time, but it didn't have to happen right away. I've started to like text people just like batch them out, respond to people like while I'm taking a shit kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
Multitask.
but it's only because my phone is somewhere else. Otherwise, if I see it, I'm gonna be like, "What is that?" Let me know. I have a funnier response here. I think I'm a good texter. I like texting. Like I think it's fun, and it keeps me connected to people, and group chats are hilarious and whatever. But I don't have to respond right away. But if it's around, I will.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, it's more so of like I'm totally okay texting people, texting group chats, communicating, because at the end of the day, I'd rather use my phone, right, to communicate with people than to sit on it all day, watch on Instagram, or to sit on it for 2 hours in the morning on YouTube. I just don't need to do that. And so I've been trying, that's what I've been working on doing. It's just like at the end of the day, I would rather watch a 30-minute TV show than sit on my phone for 30 minutes. I think that's a better use of my time if I want to like have a source of entertainment. If I'm texting somebody, if I'm FaceTiming somebody, if I'm FaceTiming a group, like that's what I should be using my phone for in my opinion. But I'm trying to get better at not just sitting on Instagram all day. And I think part of that too is because I work with the platform. And so I get kind of like it just reminds me of work. So I try not to think about like I try to have an escape. But I completely agree with you. I see a notification pop up on my phone and I'm like sitting here on the computer typing. I'm like, and then another one happens. I'm all, okay, what's the big deal? Look at my phone. Okay, yeah, awesome. And then my train of thought is gone, right? And I'm distracted. And then I'm like, okay. So that's why like the brick really does it creates that flow, that sense of flow where you're in that work state of flow. And
That's why I'm on Do Not Disturb all the time.
yeah, and I get that.
If people need me, they'll text me and I'll respond when I can. If they really need me and they call me twice. It'll go through. And it will.
It will.
And then I'll be like,
He
all
broke the
right,
do not
I
disturb.
either I can or can't pick up. I know there are people who will call me twice in the middle of the day, and it's just because they called me the first time and they know I'm on DND and so they wanted to talk. And then I can make the decision in that moment of like, no, I can't talk right now. But if you kind of need me and you call me once, I don't need to get distracted.
Yeah, get that. It's funny to think about that. This is really like it's a real challenge for a lot of people and like for us,
It's really hard.
you know,
You have to
20
be
years.
aware. Most people aren't aware. Most people are not aware of the amount of time and the amount, or they're aware. Like everyone I talk to, not everyone I talk to, but a lot of people that I talk to are like, oh, yeah, like I'm just on it way more than I want to be. It's just a common sentiment. People are pissed off about how much they're on their phone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. And I think our generation has lived in that kind of middle where not every like
It was
younger
new when we
generation
were
is
older as
fucked.
kids.
Younger generation is fucked because they're gonna have from 9 years old like constant validation. I at least remember being like in 8th grade and being bored and just like laying in the den and dad coming upstairs and being like, go outside, go do something else. Like you don't have to just be, and then just figuring something out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had technology rules. You can't be on after 8:30 or whatever. Can't be on before 7.
Absolutely
Only in the
ridiculous.
dark, whatever it was. Pissed me off.
So upset.
Pissed me off.
Cannot believe I couldn't watch TV at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
I just want to play COD with my friends who don't have these rules.
And then Dad made me go mow the lawn? Are you kidding?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's true though. Like it's an actual struggle that a lot of people deal with. The distraction, like the addiction, the takes you away from like the real like conversations you're having with other people in the room at that moment. And it didn't exist 15, 20 years ago, you know? Like it didn't exist now, but the fact that we are like aware of it and you're actually trying to be better about it, like
Just trying. Not good.
it,
Not great at it.
yeah,
I'm just trying.
it's hard.
And the thing that I'm struggling with now is like not judging people for being on their phone when I'm not on it, because I go on my phone, but just because I'm not on my phone does not give me the right to be like, a person's on their phone. Loser. That's not
Right.
true. I think I can judge when I'm with someone and they're constantly on their phone, like, hey, dude, like, be a human being. Like, there's other people around you. You can be here too. It's just like the same idea as like when you're like hanging out with a teenager who's just constantly like this. You're like, first of all, fuck you.
I think
Every teenager I've ever with, fuck you, man. Get off your phone.
I think
Hang out with me. Because I hang out with a bunch of just high schoolers. And I'm like, yeah, and I could go on my phone, but
I think what it really comes down to though is like you got to realize like you don't want to be on your phone that often, and whatever you do to like do that for yourself, that's great. But like just because you don't, some people might need that. They might need that outlet, you might say.
no, they don't.
At the end of the day, there's been things that help people for sure,
Sure.
but I think really it's just the battle between you and your own phone, you and your own
For sure.
distractions.
Like I said the current issue is me judging people for it.
Yeah, right.
But I know that I'm on my phone at time to time. But when I'm with people in public and they're just constantly on their phone, or I'm like looking at people at a restaurant and both of them are on their phones the entire time,
Like it's hard for you to
it's hard for me to not walk up. Well,
not.
I've never done this, but like walked over and just been like, hey, welcome to the real world. But in my head, I'm like, this society is screwed. I do think it'll become a superpower as those people who don't have to be on their phones at all times. And also, just it's an easy filter for people that I want to hang out with. If
Well,
someone's
yeah,
constantly referring to something, did you see this? Did you see that? Have you seen this? Have you seen this video? Watch this video, blah, 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 blah. I get legitimately pissed off.
I could see you getting pissed off by that.
I get legitimately pissed off when it's the majority of what we're talking about is, did you see this? No, I didn't. There's billions of hours of content being created every day. I haven't seen everything, and I don't need to see everything. I hate when people are saying you got to see this, and then it's just I don't remember any of the things that anyone has ever said. You have to see this right now. I don't remember them. And that's also my biggest qualm and why I get frustrated with me going on my phone is I don't remember. I scrolled yesterday for 30 minutes while I was watching the Knicks lose. And I was scrolling during the third and fourth quarter because the game was no longer fun. And I don't remember a single thing that I watched. I probably sent stuff and I probably laughed and I probably was like, damn, that's crazy. But I don't remember. So how is that valuable? I'm still going to do it from time to time. I still like it. But once again, like I said, I'm a weak human being. I'm a human being with psychological weaknesses who loves dopamine hits, who loves ease and comfort, just like most humans. And so what I love about Brick, what I love about Do Not Disturb, and what I love about just being aware is that I'm carving out more time where I'm not on it than I would be if I didn't have those tools.
Makes sense.
That's why I'm not judging people for ever being on their phone because I get it.
Right.
I
You
like
never
it.
do that.
I go on it. But I'm going to judge you if it's constant or if that's all you do or that's all you talk about or that's you're interacting with people and like I'm with you and that's all you ever are going to bring to the table is just being on your phone. Like, screw that.
I think the biggest thing is maybe you're hanging out with somebody, they ask the like, hey, you want to hang out? And then you go to a coffee shop and they're spending more time on their phone instead of interacting with you. That's totally fair to be like, hey man, trying to hang out. You know what I mean? But if somebody's just at their house sitting on the couch and they're using it as an outlet, like that's everybody's guilty of that, you know?
For sure.
And I can see you. as somebody who gets pretty frustrated with a lot of things that some people do, I can see you being out in public, being stoked that you're like on do not disturb, that you're just hanging around, drinking your coffee, and maybe you're reading the book in the coffee shop going like, this is great. I'm 27. It's awesome. And then seeing two people drinking coffee with their computers out, not even on their computers, but they're both just scrolling on Instagram for 25 minutes. And you thinking in your head like, I don't
I
want
am
to be
better than
doing
them.
that. Yeah, like I could see you saying that. 100%. I think
Look at these idiots.
I think the most look at them. I can't believe they're no, but you're like I'm 27. I'm not even 30 and I'm doing this. I think the biggest thing is for me, I have the ability to not have to be on my phone all day for work, which some people have to be on their phone all day during work because they have to take calls, right? And so it's become like I'm dependent on that. And so I'm now understanding and being able to be more aware the times that I'm not distracted by notifications during the day. I am more productive. And when I'm more productive, that means I'm spending more time, energy on more efficient things during the day. And by the end of the day, I feel better about that day.
100%
And you can do the same thing, just like, for example, last weekend when we were at the lake. I spent barely any time on my phone the entire weekend.
in a rock.
Yeah, just hanging out with family and having conversations, laughing, having a good time. And that's
Right.
something that I'm now kind of understanding the last 3 years as an adult, being like, oh, it's really nice not because I grew up, with playing video games with all my friends as a kid and grew up playing the iOS games on your phone, grew up like just using my phone for all these like entertaining things. Like that was the source of entertainment, right? And so it is this coming to life, like realization of, okay, let's not distract myself all day. And then when you continue to do that, it feels great. So I get why you would be frustrated. I understand that. But I also
But that
think you like you said, like you're struggling with getting frustrated about it. Like you do need to work on not getting frustrated about random people you see that are just on their phones because
no,
they
I
could
know.
easily be that could be their outlet and they could be really like not on the phone during the week, you know?
Right, and it's just they're buying flights. They're taking 10 minutes because they haven't been on their phone for 2 days. Like there's all these reasons why I understand that I should not. It doesn't matter at all. Correct. I announced at the beginning of this that it's something that I'm
Just
working
want to
on and
make
I
sure.
understand. But it's not going to stop me. I'm sorry. What you're saying though is 100% true. It is the outlet. It is entertainment. It is seeking comfort when you are bored, stressed, fearful, anxious, whatever. It's just a filler. And I understand I do it, right? I get why it's a thing. And like I notice that when I'm bricked up and I'm stressed at work, I grab my phone, but because I'm bricked, it doesn't let me do it, which is why I love it. Because I'm a weak human being and I have to engineer my environment. And I choose, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to break up because I want the opportunity to go on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. And then and I'm not breaked up, and then all of a sudden I lose 15, 20 minutes or whatever. But to your point, you were like, oh, for some people, it's an outlet. I agree. It is an outlet to escape boredom, stress, anxiety, whatever. If that's the default, every single time you are stressed or bored or tired or annoyed or whatever, going back to Tim Robinson, and if I start losing, I'll go on my phone. Like the moment you start losing, if you go on your phone, you're continuing to lose because it's not solving anything, and I'm not going to remember all of these funny little reels that I just watched. It doesn't do anything. It's just that all of a sudden time is gone. And so the thing that I'm working on the thing that Brick has given me as a gift is that even when I'm not bricked up, I'm on it less, and it's a little bit more intentional. Like I'm sitting on the couch at the end of the day, and I'm going on it. But that time is better spent feeding the brain with a book or even the game, even though they're both escapes from whatever. It's less put down. It's less stress. It's less, this is what you don't have, or this is what you could be making, or this is, whatever. It's like create more, consume less if you can. But for most people, for a lot of people, it becomes 6 p.m. till you go to bed.
Yeah.
And that is like, well, it's just an escape for people. Right. That's the problem.
Right.
It's an
Well,
escape.
I think it can be an escape. Like for me, it's an escape for the wrong escape. Like for me, it's just a bunch of comedy sports reels that I don't necessarily need to see. But like there are other interests that and people out there who utilize the tool for like for example, Jill will utilize Instagram to get wedding ideas. Like that's her wedding research and save those things into like a specific folder and then go back there to figure out the where that Amazon link is to go see that thing versus like using the internet to do the research because there you can get a lot of quick ideas and different products and all that stuff by doing it that way. She also
That's different than just going on the phone, in my opinion.
that's what I'm explaining though. Like she utilizes the reels to find those things. Same with like recipes, dinner recipes and stuff that people show how to make a specific thing. She'll save it and go like, I'm going to make that this week. So like there are good sources of entertainment when it comes to that type of thing. For me, however, my source of entertainment is just a bunch of funny reels and sports clips that I think are great, but I find they do waste my time when I can maybe spend it doing something else that evening because time is a limited thing. And so I think there are some aspects to it that people are purposefully going on there to get that specific info or build towards their interests. And then there are other parts that they do feed as a time waster and as like
What percent do you think of people going on their phones is spent intentionally doing research?
I don't know a percentage. I'm just
Just
saying
throw a number out there. Just throw a number out
no, no,
there.
no. I don't guess numbers anymore. I have to do the actual math.
Of all the times, not even just Jill, because that could be 50-50 if she's always doing that and you're never doing that. So how many more are there of yous or are there of Jills?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think you know.
Well, no, I'm putting it out there in the sense of like I can understand why some people use it differently than the way I use it. I use it as a source of entertainment. Some people might use it as a source of idea generation or research. But I think a majority of people spend most of their time on Instagram or social, like any social platform, more than they necessarily need to. And it's also because it's a lot easier to spend 30 minutes doing that because time goes by really quickly when you're doing that because it's just constant new videos and stuff. But I do think people will utilize it for more of a specific purpose reason to go on there and do that, to find and look at the things that really are like their interests in the world. People who, do like kind of like the DIY type of stuff and like the home renovation stuff, like all of those things where like it doesn't go into my feed, but there are other people that specifically want to go on that platform to see that stuff. And I think that's totally fair. But for our purposes, I think we find that the content we look at isn't beneficial for the amount of time that we spend on there. And so what I'm trying to say is some people might look at content differently than like the way we do. Like to be fair, but
I'm not discounting that. I also think you're defending Jill's usage in this conversation. I
well,
think
I think
that's the main source.
she uses it differently than I do and then I've seen a lot of people use it. So,
Bingo. 2023 studies say that Americans use their phones 70% of the time for entertainment. 70% of the time spent on the phone. The average amount of time spent on a phone is almost 5 hours a day.
it's actually lower than I
So,
thought it'd be.
well, that's all Americans, not broken out by age group.
Right.
5 hours a day, 70%, 3.5 hours a day is entertainment.
Quick math.
All I'm saying is that you get off work at 5 o'clock. Maybe you go to the gym. Talked about an average American. You get back at 6. You make dinner at 6:30, or you're done making dinner, whatever. It's 7 o'clock. Now you spend 3.5 hours, 7 to 10:30, on your phone every day. That's not how it actually works, right?
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, for me, and going back once again, weak human being. I go on my phone. I'm not immune to this. I'm just saying if I can carve out time or use tools to where that becomes even 9 to 10:30, what does that 7 to 9 every day give me in the long term? I know for a fact that if I spent 7 to 9 reading a book or having good conversations with a friend every day, as opposed to being on my phone, I would be a happier human being because I know the value that I get from reading and I know the joy that I get from conversations with friends. So I'm just going back to it's just an escape. It's an easy thing to do. It's quick, entertaining, free from a financial perspective. It's not free from a time perspective or your mental health perspective. And is that cost worth it? The answer is no. I think from like a fair trade value perspective, right? That doesn't mean that I want to get rid of it because I do like it and I do stay connected with friends and I do get inspired by things and I see things that make me laugh and there's things that I enjoy about it. But I think most people are not aware of the hold that it has and the negative consequence that it has. And that's the scary part for me. And that's why I think I judge people because I'm like, they have no idea like how much they're on their phone.
Yeah. It's embedded into all of our lives.
You are out and about with your friends and every single one of you is on your phone. And I'm not just judging them because like they have their phone out because they're looking at the menu, but the entire double date. I've seen people just phones on the table, checking it, taking pictures, blah, 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 blah. It's like it's just
You kind of like it's kind of like you went from being in the, you know, late 90s and then you just decided to time travel forward to 2025 and you're just like, "Whoa." Like all of us like it's that perspective of the realization that this is just embedded into everybody's lives now. And so it's not rude to be on your phone on a double date when in reality, like you feel like, wait, maybe it is. Like that seems a little weird, right? If you were to look back in time.
I now get upset with myself when I go on my phone when I'm with people because like I know how it feels when other people are on their phone. And so like I'll often be like, "Hey, I need to send this text really quick." Just to be like, I'm not about to like lose myself into Instagram for no reason.
Yeah. You're trying to be respectful.
Yeah, because I think it's disrespectful as fuck if I'm talking to you and you are on your phone the entire time. I think it's rude.
Yeah, I agree. I
I think
agree.
it's
And
rude.
most of the time people aren't listening.
I think it's rude to have it out. I don't think it's as big of a deal as someone being on it, but I think it's rude to have it out because studies have shown the psychological effect of the person who's speaking and the perception of listening and respect that you have even when someone's phone is out. It is lower. There is like a kind of a tension
That's
of,
interesting.
hey man, you need to have your source of entertainment as close as possible or available, and I'm not good enough. That's kind of the feeling that people get. If I'm just like, if I was this whole time just like this, that's rude, in my opinion. You're now immediately being like, well, why the fuck is his phone out? Like, we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
We're recording a podcast, Jacob. Put your phone down. Well, no, I'm not on it. It's just out.
But what if someone texts me?
Someone did text me. I didn't even check it.
But
Okay,
I
then put
know
your
exactly what you mean. At the end of the day, when the phone is out, or at least when you're trying to talk to somebody and then halfway through you're talking to them, like you're in a conversation with them, mid convert, like you're still speaking, and then they go on their phone and just, uh-huh, yeah, for sure.
fuck that
And you're just
person.
like, you get what I'm saying? But, hypothetically, even I think it's also that doesn't happen as often when you are one on one with somebody because I don't think that happens as often, but when you're in a group, it's super easy to have all that happen. And then when two people have their phone out or go on their phone, it's like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I think it's harder for it to happen in one-on-ones because it's rude. I think
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
if you're talking to someone, I was just like the entire time you're trying to talk. Like you're not gonna do that because it's rude and weird and annoying. I think most of the time especially when you're talking to someone that you know, you're like, I'm on my phone all the time. Like I'm here to talk to you.
right. Yeah, but group setting, I mean, dude, it's contagious. It's so contagious. Like somebody hops on their phone while you're all sitting around the couch, and then all of a sudden, everybody's on there just watching Instagram. You're all, man,
Well, if you guys are gonna go on your fucking phones, then like I'm gonna go on my phone, kind of thing.
yeah, it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting as we continue to get older too, and like what society will look like with eventually having kids and thinking about like the rules that you put down of like no, you're not having a cell phone until you're X years old, and And I think the hard part is too, is society is actually, it's depending on smartphones nowadays. It's,
Oh yeah, you can't get rid of the smartphone.
well, no, no, no. It's not that you get rid of it, but more so of like even kids kind of are starting to depend on having a smartphone with just using technology in schools and out and about, and it's safe, like for safety measures like tracking your kids. Like I would get why some a parent would buy a kid an iPhone to have all of that instant communication with their kid and having the tracking on there, and like it makes sense, but it's just going to be interesting to see as we continue to get older, like what it looks like as adults, and how, because we are one of the few that grew up without a cell phone and then grew up with a cell phone. There was a lot of people who grew up without the cell phone and then
There's
had
a
it
lot of
as an
people who grew
adult.
up
And then there were a lot
right.
of people who grew up with the cell phone, but we're one of the few that grew
Yeah,
up
we
with it and without it.
got it at like 14 or whatever.
Yeah,
But even then, it was less embedded. So even though we had it, like Instagram was just pictures of people's friends, and now it's everybody's news. It's your source of
entertainment.
entertainment. It's all ads as opposed to like a chronological feed.
Right.
Because I remember you used to be able to hit the end of Instagram,
Like that's all.
where you'd be like,
You're up to date.
all right, I saw everything that's been posted.
Yeah, you're up to date is what it used to say.
I remember I remember they got rid of that, and I hated that it was out of order.
Yeah, I'd be like, why is this from 3 weeks ago?
Yeah. Well, because you might want to see it. I mean, I did. It was funny. I'm curious.
Yeah, man, it's interesting, and I think it's cool that I think it's cool that you're bad at it and you're trying to get better at it, and it just that you know the need to know what's on your phone at all times is it's constantly there, but it's really hard to
But
just
yeah, I mean, I just threw my phone over there, and I'm kind of like, I don't wonder what's going on.
what am I missing out on?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it.
nothing. The
To
answer
be
is
honest
nothing.
though, I think really it's it's all the sources of entertainment that are on your phone that if you can get a handle on and not consume as much during the week, you just feel a lot better.
I think if you look at it as like if you're turning on Netflix, people, and I'm guilty of it from time to time too. I try my best. Is like, well, the first thing they do is go on social media right when they wake up. If you compare that same thing to would you get up and immediately just start watching a Netflix show? Like, most people probably don't.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's a commitment and there's more time than 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and you can just whatever. But it's the same, you're doing the same thing. You're just turning on something that makes your brain think about not the things that are going on in your own life and floods your brain with dopamine and all these happy chemicals and just makes the challenging things in life more challenging because you gave your brain something easy right to start. The same reason why people say like start with something hard during the day. Start with a cold shower, go for a run in the morning, get your workout. Matthew McConaughey talks about how when he wakes up, there's a ladder of responsibilities and deliverables and things that needs to handle. But if he starts his day with a sweat and a hard work and a workout, then that ladder just kind of falls over and he just runs over the rungs as opposed to climbing. Because if you start with something difficult, your brain is more ready to handle more challenges because, hey, we just did that. Why can't we do the next thing? So on the vice versa, if you start your day immediately with 30 minutes of things that you're not gonna remember 6 hours later, most likely, and it's just quick, easy, like that's funny, that's like perfectly curated for what I like. And then you go downstairs and you try to start your day and like things go wrong and like things aren't perfectly curated for the things that you like and love. Everything's gonna be more challenging and more frustrating and more difficult. And like I said, by no means perfect. I have the same psychological weaknesses that many of our generation have, but being aware of that challenge and being aware of the impact that it has at least allows me to make a decision more often than I used to set myself up for success. And I noticed like I've even started to like stop putting on podcasts like right when I start my day because it becomes just I'm just easily entertained. And if I start with it and then turning it off, I can feel myself being like, well, I could just listen to it some more. And then I'm half listening to that while I'm half working, while I'm half, and then things take longer. It's just
I
like,
get it. I get it. I don't go on I hardly go on my phone in like the morning time. I think it's because the dogs are like just waiting to get fed. I get so distracted by that. You're making coffee, and while you're making coffee, you're putting dried dishes away back into the cabinet, kind of like doing all these things. And then I get distracted by reading my emails that I read in the morning, you know? And so becomes my distraction, but that's also work. I'm working. So like there'll be times where I find myself like, oh, I read through all my emails, and then I go on Instagram, and then I'm all like, I don't need to go on Instagram, and I like go out of Instagram, and I put like my phone down, and I just continue to do other like things to start my day. But I was for sure guilty of just going on Instagram a lot a couple years ago every morning for like 2 hours in the morning when you're living in a world of being a college student and you have all the time in the world. But I agree with that. Even the podcast, the YouTube videos, I have been guilty of that, where you start your day with 20 minutes of the top 20 dynasty running backs that it's like, wait, why am I watching this right now? I don't need to watch. This doesn't affect my day.
Yeah, dude. And this is not gonna help at all. And then, well, my thing is like productive podcasts or like innocent podcasts of like people talking about tech or people talking about sports.
Even this podcast.
Like I'm not on yeah, exactly. It's just other people talking about things that they care about in that moment and just taking you away from taking you away from the present moment. All of this is taking you away from the present moment.
Yeah.
It's denial of the here and the now. It's non-acceptance for your current struggles and your current challenges. And I am completely guilty of trying to avoid the things that are frustrating or sad or difficult or hard. So if I could do that less, then I'll be better.
Yeah. So like if you're listening to this podcast right now, this is a perfect opportunity right now to tell you to stop listening.
Turn us off.
Go start your work morning, or maybe you're driving in the car and put on a really good song that you like to listen to. And like, this is it. We're going to end this episode right now because go be more present. But, come back and give us a follow and tell your friends about the show, because at the same time, it's a podcast. But in all seriousness,
productive one.
Yeah. In all seriousness, though, I mean, that makes sense. Like, I'm guilty of it too. And I think at the end of the day, it's just information that gets put into your brain that causes you to alter your thinking or mindset that you currently have. And, there's a lot of really good positive parts of it because it makes you think, it makes you learn, it makes you think about being better, doing better things, like maybe this podcast episode did for you. But also, it can be taking away from the time you can be spending that 45 minutes in the morning to go work out or go for a walk before work.
The difference between a 10-minute walk in the morning and a 10-minute scroll session is unreal in terms of the trajectory change.
Yeah, it's a difference.
It's a huge difference. You're not going to take that vote every single day, but if you can take that vote most of the time, it's going to change so many days.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Earn Your Couch. If you enjoyed listening today and have not yet given us a follow on Spotify or Instagram, go follow us there to stay up to date on all new episode releases and other Earn Your Couch related content. Thanks for listening to the episode, and we will see you on the next one. This outro was definitely not made by an AI voice generator.